Hey, everybody. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I hope you guys are okay. But I'm glad you're here tonight. I gotta move my fan. Okay. Let me set up. I just gotta double check everything. There's so many behind the scene things you kind of have to do to get things going. True. Yeah. Let's hope you're good. Alrighty then. So let me switch gears. Tonight, oh, I gotta bring up my schedule. I wasn't completely prepared. Oh. So if you had it a month ago, you can't be reinfected for another 90 days? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Anyway, so we're going to start here in a second. Hagel Misfit. Oh, of course you could still spread it. Yeah. Okay. So tonight we are doing, it's Thursday, so it's Stitch Dictionary. I'm not with it today. I'm just a little kind of in a fog, sleepy, and kind of, it's that January, February funk. But anyway, we'll press on through. So tonight we're gonna do our Stitch Dictionary Thursday, and our first stitch, and hopefully, why can't it's showing up a little washed out? Maybe if I zoom in. It's not really helping much, but okay. This right here is called the Sedge stitch. If you kind of look at it, it almost looks like a fan stitch, but not really. And it might show up better. Actually shows up better on the blue. Here's on the blue. So it forms this, it's like a swirl. So it looks like a swirl just kind of going back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to show you how to do the sedge stitch. And this is super easy to do this. We are going to get us some hot, well, not hot pink, but pink. Yeah, kind of like a little hand fan. Like, they're kind of like here. They kind of, it moves back and forth depending on how you look at it. But yeah, they're kind of shaped sideways. And then, depending on how you look at it, it looks complicated. It's super easy. If you know your basic stitches, it's easy. Okay. we're going to try to get through this one as fast as we can because our second project pattern of the night is a lot more involved. I'm still going to go slow on both of them, but I don't want to spend too much time on this because this repeat is the same repeat over and over and over again. So with this stitch, you're going to do a multiple of 3 plus 3 extra ones for the foundation chain. Meaning, if you're going to have your work 30 stitches wide, you want an extra 3 because those extra 3 will form the first stitch on the side of your fabric. They won't be included in your finished width, if that makes sense. Just like how if you're doing single crochet and you're going into a chain, let's say you want 30 stitches, you do an extra one because that extra one is your turning chain to go back the way you came. It's the same type of thing. So it's a multiple of 3 plus an additional 3 for the foundation chain. So I'm going to do 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're just going to do a small sample today. So that's going to be 12. And we do an additional 3. 1, 2, 3. So in this case, we're going to have 15. Those first 3 chains, those first couple chains, are not going to be our finished width. They're going to be our turning chain. So now we're going to skip the first 2 chains. Let me zoom in. So again, we've got our multiple of 3 plus an additional 3 chains. We're skipping the first 2 chains. And in the third chain, we're going to do a half double crochet. Okay, everybody follow me so far? So we did our initial chain. We're going to skip the first 2. Skipping those first 2 chains, those chains here will form a single crochet. Just think of that mental in your head. That turning chain is actually a single. So in the third chain from the hook, we're going to do a half double. In that same exact chain, you're going to do a double. So essentially, in that chain, we've got a single, because our turning chains here, which were those additional 3 chains for the foundation, counts as a single, a half double, and a double. Yes, a half double is, to do a half double, that's a good question. Let me go back and show you. Let me count. Let me just double check I didn't take anything out. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So a half double is wrap it once, insert it into the hook, into the chain, which in this stitch will be the third one from the hook. So you insert, yarn over, and bring it up. You have 3 on the hook. So you're going to act like you're going to do a double crochet, but a half double is you yarn over and bring it through all 3 on the hook. Okay, so we've got our turning chain, which was part of our foundation chain, a half double into the third one from the hook, and then a double in that same chain that we just worked in. So that forms a little, I'm going to call it a cluster, but it's more of like a little half fan cluster. This is good practice if you don't use half doubles. Now what you're going to do is you're going to skip 2 chains. So our first chain is here and our second chain. So you skip the next 2 chains. Here's one and here's one. So in the third chain, you're going to do a single, and in that exact same chain that you did the single, you're going to do a half double. Again, a half double is you wrap, go into the chain, yarn over, bring through, 3 on the hook, and then you're going to yarn over and bring through all 3. So that's a half double. So we did a single, a half double, and now we're going to do a double, all in that same chain. So doubles, you wrap, you go in, yarn over, bring it up, yarn over through the first 2, and yarn over through the next 2. So again, we made our little half fan cluster. We skipped 2 chains, and in the following chain, do a single, a half double, and a double. And we're going to do that all the way to the end until we get the last couple chains. I think it'll be the last 3 chains are going to be there, I think, if I remember correctly. So we're going to skip 2 chains, and in the third chain, we're going to do a single, a half double, and a double. Again, skip the next 2 chains, and in the third chain, do a single, a half double, which I'm doing a half double right now, and then a double. You're going to have 3 chains left. That's why you need a multiple of 3 for your row. We're going to skip the next 2 chains, and in the very last chain, we are going to do a single crochet. And that's how we're going to end it. So to recap, our chain was a multiple of 3, so in this case 12. I did 3 extra chains. Those extra chains will be our first single crochet in our first row. The third chain from the hook, we're going to put a half double and a double. We're going to skip 2 chains, and in the third chain, do a single, a half double, and a double. Skip 2 chains, the third chain, do a single, a half double, and a double. You're going to repeat that all the way to the end. And then when you have 3 chains left, you're going to skip the first 2 chains. When you're down here with those 3 that are remaining, you're going to skip the 2 chains, and in the very last chain, you're just going to do a single. So that's row 1. After that is probably the most difficult part of this stitch. The next row, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now, in this single crochet here, that you see here in all of this, in that big old space, you're going to do a half double crochet and a double. I'm going to rip that out and show you again. So we finished, oops, get the tail out of the way. We finished our row, our first row. We're going to chain. That first chain counts as our first single crochet on the next round. Think of it that way. So that is our first single crochet into this big old space. And now to finish it, we do a half double and a double. And then what we're going to do is we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. And in this stitch, you see how the fan kind of goes down and then it goes back up where it goes down here? Those are the spots we're aiming for. So we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and in that third one, it's almost like a chain, but in that space there, we're going to do a single, with the yarn. So we're going to go past this little fan shape, and on the other end of it, between the 2 fan shapes, we'll do a single, a half double, and a double. Is it making sense so far? You're going to repeat the pattern, skip the next 2 stitches, and in this stitch here, God, the lighting keeps changing on my camera. So in that stitch here, you'll repeat it. You do a single, a half double, and a double. Do the same thing. You skip the next 2 stitches, and then the third one, do a single, a half double, and a double. So you're doing the exact same thing. Now, when you're at the end here, you're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and here at the turning chain, you are going to do a single crochet into that. And that's the repeat. So I'll do another row. Chain 1, which counts as, when we flip, will count as our first single crochet of our little fan. So consider that your single crochet of the fan, and in that same, that hole there, do a half double and a double, all in that grouping. And once you get the pattern established, you don't really have to count. You just see where it kind of dips down a little, and that's where you're going. You're going to where it dips down. So in there, you're going to do a single, a half double, and a double. And you repeat the pattern until you get to the end. So again, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, do a single, a half double, and a double. Let's do it one more time. Oh, I got a piece of fuzz. Skip the next 2 stitches, and then the third one, which is almost like a chain space, you're going to do a single, a half double, and then a double. Then when you get to the end, on the turning chain side here, the top of that turning chain, or anywhere you can get close enough, doesn't have to be exact, you're going to do a single crochet. And that's the pattern. It's going to show up more once I get a little further along. You'll actually see that wavy fan pattern. So one more time, we're going to chain 1 and flip. That chain 1 counts as a single crochet, and then we're going to, in that same little space, do a half double and a double. Skip 2 stitches, and in the third stitch, do a single, a half double, and a double. Forms like a little half fan cluster. It's not a true fan, or it's not a true scallop, because it doesn't actually make a full curve. It goes up and then it makes the next one. So again, skip 2, and then the third one, a single, a half double, and a double. Check this. Again, one more time. Skip 2 chains, and then the third one, do a single, a half double, double. We've come to the end, so the top of that turning chain on the edge, just do a single. Is that making sense? You're probably all busy crocheting right now. Got it? It looks more complicated than it is, and it goes fast, because it's just that you're always doing those same series of stitches in those clusters, and you don't really got to count much, because it'll tell you visually. You can see where the fabric kind of dips down a little because of the shapes of the stitches, because you got a short, medium, and a tall stitch. Short, medium, tall, short, medium, tall. So you don't really got to go searching. So you chain 1, flip, and in that space, half double and a double, and then where it comes down and meets the other fan, single, half double, and double. Same thing. You don't got to count. You can just visually see. Okay, now do another one. Single, half double, double, and then when you get to the end, the only thing is you just make a single crochet into the top of that edge. And then eventually you'll get this textured pattern, and it almost looks like a scallop, like a shell, but it's more of a very delicate fan almost. You need me to go over this a little any further? I'll do one more row. Chain 1, flip, that counts as a single. Do a half double and a double. Hey, Grammy. In the next one, like I said, it will tell you where to put it. It goes here. A single, half double, and a double. Same thing. Single, half double, and double. It's almost like granny squares where you're stitching into a chain space, because that stitch there, it's technically you are going in the top of that stitch. It's actually a single crochet from the previous row, but the way that the clusters are joined and are made, it makes a little bit larger of a stitch. So it's kind of like doing a granny square where you're going into the larger hole instead of the individual tops of the individual stitches. And then the only thing you got to remember is at the end of the row, single crochet in the top of that turning chain. Now, with this sample here, you could start to see the stitch pattern. You can really see it like right here. It's like a fan that's almost on its side. It's not a full fan. It's like a quarter of a fan. If you can kind of visualize that. But then you have one here, which is going the opposite direction. So that one's more to the left, and then that row is more to the right. And it does make a slightly textured fabric, but works up really, really fast. And then, with doing it all, the clusters and all, you're going to have these holes that are going to be in vertical rows that each hole will kind of slightly alternate side to side. You need me to elaborate more on this, or are we good with this for tonight? Because the next one, I don't really expect anybody to follow along with me as I'm doing it, because it's very, very involved. Good. Okay. You still there, Clay Miko? And Nor Fairy? Yeah, they're here. No. Well, one thing is, the next one's Tunisian, and if you don't have a Tunisian hook, also, no, also because of this next stitch I'm doing, it took me 2.5 days to sit there and watching tutorials, other people's tutorials and written descriptions, and try to wrap my head around what to do, when, and where. And even then, I had to sit down and write it all out and like, okay, wrap my head around. I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this here, the Sedge stitch, works up quick. That's real basic. So we're going to move our examples out of the way of the Sedge stitch, and we're going to use a different color pink, a little bit lighter pink, for the next one. So what we're going to do now, get my example, get my yeah, okay. This is Tunisian Smock stitch. Now, I would consider this the more intermediate Tunisian stitch. If you're not to the level, yeah, I have to do the same thing. If you're not to the level of intermediate Tunisian stitching, I totally understand. With Tunisian Smock stitching, first of all, It has a little less curl than regular Tunisian stitch. It does make a thicker, chunkier fabric, like a lot of Tunisian, but this is a little bit thicker. And it makes this really cool lattice-looking pattern, which mimics smocking in sewing. And I don't have a picture of it. Grammy knows what smocking is. I'm going to look up an example of let's see. An example of smocking. Gotta find a decent one. I should have prepared this, but I didn't. Okay. This might be a good picture if I can pull it up. Whoa, I don't need to zoom in that much. Okay. This here, this is on a little girl's dress. But you see this part here at the top? And this site is, every time I move the cursor, it moves up and down. See how it's actually tiny little accordion folds in the fabric, and exactly what Grammy said. You're making a row of pleats and then alternating rows. So you make these really small pleats or accordion fold, and it's a way you stitch them together to create that look. That's smocking. Let me see if I can find another example. Let's see. I'm going to show I think I saw a picture here. If this will come up. Okay, that's showing it basically in the basic form. See how it's got these accordion folds of these pleats, and this is how you smocking and stitch in actual sewing. So you would sew them, the little folds together, the pleats together, alternating. So like this row, it's here, you join these two and these two and these two, and then this row, it's alternating. So it forms this lattice pattern. That's what we're going to do here. It mimics the look of smocking. This is going to take a little while. So let's move our example out of the way. And we're going to give us plenty of extra slack on our yarn. With this stitch, you're going to do a multiple of 2. And this is Tunisian crochet. So put your slip knot on your hook and you do a multiple of 2. I'm going to do, let's do 8. No, let's do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Then what you're going to do is you're just going to do your foundation row with simple Tunisian crochet. This is the easy part. Yeah, this actually might be a little longer stream. So the second chain from the hook, you're going to go in, pick up a loop and leave it on the hook. You're going to do that for every chain. So this is basic Tunisian simple stitch for our foundation row. In this case, the foundation row is different than row 1. I would not consider this part this is not part of the actual smocking technique. It's just getting us started. So we had 10 chains, and we're going to count the loops. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay? Now the return pass is normal, normal Tunisian crochet. So you're going to chain 1, and then yarn over and take off 2. Yeah, get your crojo going. So this foundation row is just like basic Tunisian crochet. Nothing different. Okay? So, basic Tunisian. We get our 10 little stitches, our little ladder. Now we're going to do row 1. And there's a technique, a term, and a technique that's going to be new. We all know what yarn over means. So yarn over is this. So the hook is between your thumb and your yarn, and you're going to put the yarn over the hook. That's yarn over. For this, for the beginning of this stitch, we're going to do something called a yarn under. A yarn under is we're going to put the hook on the outside and go under this way. The yarn is still going over top of the hook, but it's going the opposite way. So we're going to yarn under and hold that loop there with our finger. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go under the first 2 bars in the Tunisian crochet. We're still holding it with our finger, because if not, we'll lose it. Then we're going to yarn over like we normally would, like in crochet. So you're going to pick it up and bring it through the 2 bars in your fabric. And I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. So now we have 3 loops on the hook. When normally that yarn under adds that extra loop. And it's important that we do that. So here, if you see here, oh, it's washed out. Now you can kind of see it. We form this little V. Thank you. So see how we've basically, that's a little better. When we did that, we joined those 2 bars together to form a V. And remember, in smocking and sewing, you're forming these together, and these pleats kind of form like a V shape. That's what we're mimicking. So now, we're going to do this until we get to the end. We're going to yarn under, hold your yarn, and then under the next 2 bars, and this is called Tunisian Simple Stitch 2 together. I'm not going to say that every time because it's difficult. So, again, we've yarned under to make a loop on the hook, go under 2 bars, yarn over, and bring it through those 2 bars. Do the same thing, yarn under, through the next 2 bars, yarn over, and bring it through those 2 bars. Kinda. Okay. Gonna yarn under the next 2 bars, yarn over and bring it through those 2 bars. Then when you get to the edge here, that last stitch, because remember, you still have a stitch on the edge. This time we're just going to yarn under and go through that last stitch, and then yarn over and bring it up. So remember we started with 10, the Tunisian two-step, yeah. So we started with, hold on, I gotta check something. Yeah. We started with 10 loops, because we had 10 chains, and the very foundation chain, we had 10 Tunisian simple stitches. Now, doing that yarn under and going through and joining these 2 together, we're going to count our loops. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So, in this smocking stitch, you're going to have an extra one on the left on every odd row. So this is an odd row. This is row 1. Oh. Is anyone else having issues with my audio? I don't know what it could be. Move that. Huh. Grammy, Cinderella, North Ferry. Is the audio fine? Big Cub Cuddler, maybe refresh the page or the app. I don't know. Okay, so this was row 1, because remember when we first did it, if you can remember, I did regular Tunisian crochet. Doing the first row of smocking, you have to have those bars that we 1 under 2 at a time. So in an odd row, this is row 1 of smocking, you're going to end up having an additional loop on the left. Yeah, Twitch glitches out sometimes. Like it did yesterday. I was streaming. Remember, you lost me for a couple seconds, and it came back up. Maybe I lost connection. Maybe there was aliens coming down to mess with us or whatever. The crochet gods don't always want to work with us some days. So again, where was I? So row 1, you're going to have groups of basically they form little pairs. They kind of form these little V stitches, because on that, if I turn it on the back side, you see how they're kind of twisted, because we're doing that yarn under. So an odd row, you'll have an extra loop on the left. Now, to do the return pass of every row is easy. To do a return pass, you're going to go under 1 loop, and then you're going to yarn over. So you go under the 1 loop like you normally do, and then the rest of it you go yarn over and you go through 2 loops. And this you got to be a little careful so you don't lose any. Yarn over and bring through 2 loops. Just like you normally do with regular Tunisian crochet. The return passes are all the same. So you just yarn over and go through 2. With the exception of that first one. So that's the easy part through the project, is all the return passes. Oh, and I didn't show you in the example. When I get to the end of the row, I'll show you, get my sample again. Stop real quick. That's what the fabric looks like. You can kind of see those V stitches, the smocking, and I'm going to pull this side by side. Too bad I can't make this white area go away. But you see how it looks kind of something. See, it's both gray actually. But you see how it's similar. It's forming those V's. The back side of it, like most Tunisian crochet, looks totally different. This is the unattractive side. So that is, a lot of that is formed when you do the return pass. So we've gotten row 1 done. And I lost my pointer. You look here, they form these V's, but they also form like a U shape. This one here and this one here. And then that and that. I don't know if that's coming up on camera really well. This U shape. This U shape is what we're going to be working into on this following row. And I still got to refer to my notes because it's even complicated. So now what we're going to do, we're going to forget about all of this here on the side. This will be the edge of the fabric. We're only going to worry about this one loop right now. Because to make the alternating V's, these are joined here together. And this is joined together. But now we got to find a way to join these together. It'll make more sense when I start doing it. But this first bar is what we're going to work with. So this, we're going to do regular Tunisian crochet, go under the first bar, yarn over, bring it up, 2 on the hook. Now, we're going to do the Tunisian simple stitch 2 together. Like I showed you before, we're going to yarn under, go through the next 2 bars, and that first bar kind of gets a little hard to find when you do it. But if you notice, you've got this open space where my finger's showing through. We're trying to close that gap. So we're going to go under that one and under that leg, or that bar, yarn over, and go through both of those. And we're going to do that till we get to the end, or near the end. Yarn under, go through the next 2, yarn over, bring it through those 2. Yarn under, so you got to bring that loop up on the hook, and under the next 2 bars, yarn over and bring it through the 2 bars. Now when we get here, we're not worried about this edge piece, but this last bar that's right there, we're going to yarn under, go under the bar, yarn over, and bring it through the bar. And then on this row, this pattern has a 2 row repeat. So the edge here on the even rows, you're just going to do a simple Tunisian crochet stitch. You just basically go under and bring up a loop. So now, let me see. So these are kind of joined a little bit. And then those stitches are paired together. Those are paired together. Those are paired together. Those, you got an extra one. So on the even rows, you're still going to have 11. You're going to have one more than your chain had. But you're going to have your extra one on the right. So it's going to alternate back and forth. So that's row 2. And as I go further, the pattern will appear. So now we're going to do a return pass. I'm doing the Tunisian Smock stitch, which forms, this is my sample, this forms this really cool looking fabric. It's a little denser. It is on the thicker side, but it creates this really interesting textured pattern. So the return pass is the same for all rows. So you're gonna yarn over, bring through the first loop, and now for the rest of them, yarn over and bring through 2. Yarn over through 2, just like regular Tunisian simple stitch. I think we all, if you've watched any of my previous Tunisian streams or videos, this part here, it's the same. Now we're almost to the end. Oh, well, this is showing up on camera. But you can kind of see they're forming. This was our first row we did. We got that V, and then this is this V. Now they're kind of alternating and joining. Now row 3. Row 3, we're going to yarn under, and we're going to skip this first bar, and we're going to go under the next 2 bars. But we've already yarned under. Yes, yes. We're all used to yarn over. We're not used to yarn under. So yeah, you got to retrain. And the reason you're doing that because that is going to form the alternating V stitch for your rows. So that's why you need that extra yarn under. So we got to yarn under. We're skip for this row. We yarn under and we skip that first bar. This edge does never count. We're going to skip that first bar and go under the next 2. Yarn over and bring it through. So we had 1 on the loop on the hook. Now we have 2. Yarn under. Go under the next 2 bars. Yarn over and bring it through. So now we had 1, then 3. Now we have 5 on the hook. Each time you do it, you're gaining 2 loops. Because we're adding that yarn under, that adds an extra loop. And it's to compensate for going under 2 of the bars. Because normally with simple stitch, you'd only go through 1 bar. So yarn under, go through 2, yarn over, and back through the same 2. So now we have 7 loops on the hook. Yarn under, through 2, yarn over, back through the 2. And then when we get to the edge, we're going to yarn under and go into the top of the chain of that edge. Yep. And now they kind of form U's here. See this U? There's a U here, so that's 1. 1 U, which is 2 loops. 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 10. And then our extra loop. We know we did an odd row because the extra loop is on the left side of the hook. This is if you're a right-handed crocheter. If you're left-handed, everything would be opposite. And then, once we reach the end, we do regular return pass. So we're gonna yarn over, bring through 1, which is a chain stitch, and then yarn over through 2, and you got to be careful because of how they're formed. Can't go real fast, and then yarn over through. Yeah, you just keep doing yarn over and go through 2, and you work them off the hook until you only have 1 loop on the hook. So this was row 3. It doesn't really take not take shape. You don't really see a lot of the pattern until you get more rows done. But you're starting to see the pattern a little bit. It's also the yarn I used, but I wanted a lighter yarn so you can see the stitches. Let me check something. Okay. Wrong one. So now, that was row 3. It's a 2-row repeat. So now we're going to do, the first row of smocking is a little different how you start. So now we're going to do row 2 again. So you repeat 2 and 3, 2 and 3. So row 2 again is we're going to do regular Tunisian crochet under the first bar. And now we're going to do 2 of them together. So we yarn under through the next 2, yarn over and bring them through the 2. Okay? So now we got 4. Actually, if you look at it here before I start, this is forming a U here. So when we finish the next one, it'll form a U with this. I'm getting ahead of myself. So now we're going to yarn under, go through the next 2, yarn over, and bring them through those 2. Yarn under the next 2, yarn over, and bring them through those 2. Now we have 1. It's hard to see. That right there is our last bar. So we're going to yarn under Tunisian crochet, Tunisian simple stitch under that last bar. So we're going to yarn under, go under that bar, yarn over and bring it through. Now the edge for this row, we're just going to do regular Tunisian simple stitch into the top of that chain, which that's a little tight. So now that was row 2. We're repeating row 2. And those, well, they kind of form a U, but these here definitely form a U, and a U, and a U. So now we're going to have an extra one on the right. And now, return pass, so you yarn over through 1, and then yarn over through the next 2, and yarn over through the next 2, and so on, until you only get 1 on the hook. It also might help if you're following a pattern or you're doing this to write down how many rows you've done. I mean, you can look at it and you can kind of tell what needs to be joined, but writing it down might help. Okay? There, we're getting our pattern going. You can definitely start to see it now. So that was what? That was row 4. Now we're going to do row 5. So odd numbers. So we're going to yarn under and we're going to skip that first bar and go under the next two, because we're going to need to do that because these two were joined and then these two. So now we're going to join there. So if we end up joining just the first bar to itself, it's going to look weird. You're not going to keep the pattern going. So whenever time you yarn under, you got to hold that yarn under there until you can yarn over. Oh, yeah, I lost it. Okay. We're going to yarn under and hold with our finger, go under the next two bars, yarn over and bring it through those two bars. So we had one on the hook, now we have three. Yarn under through the next two bars, yarn over and bring it through those two bars. Now we have five on the hook. And so on. Yarn under the next two, yarn over and bring it through those two. And we've got 7 on the hook. Yarn under through the next two, yarn over and bring it through, and now we're at the edge, and at the top there, for this row, you're going to yarn under and do, if I can get it into the chain, and bring it through. So now we've got a U here, or a V, whatever you want to call them. Look more like a U here until they're formed. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have our extra stitch on the extra loop on the end. So we have an extra loop on the left. It's the way I kind of remember it. If I got an extra loop on the left, we just did an odd number row. So now we're going to yarn over and bring it through the loop on the end. This is the return pass. So you do that just like normal. Yarn under through 2. Yarn over through 2. And I got to get an extra slack. Yarn over through only 2. You keep doing it until you get back to the beginning. Again, return passes are all the same no matter the row. Little difficult, little tight sometimes. Can you see the pattern forming? The back side, again, is nothing to look at. It's not really pretty. It's all about that front side. And it doesn't curl as much. It will curl a little, but not as much. And again, it's still making a thicker fabric. We're going to do some more rows. So now, you gotta remember which row I did. Okay, so we're gonna do those. Okay. So now we are gonna, this is an even row, I think. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, an even row. So for the even rows, you just do a simple Tunisian under the first bar. And then you start doing your 2 together. So you get a yarn under, go through under the 2, yarn over and bring it through the 2. Have I confused everybody? very last, not the edge, but the last bar that's here in that V stitches that are forming, you will do a yarn under through one. Then you'll do a regular Tunisian in the edge. Oh, really? Yeah, this, I really had to wrap my head around this after watching a really good tutorial on YouTube. I'm going to mention the YouTuber. If you really want to watch a really good, informative tutorials and her other videos that she does, going into different types of tools and yarns and patterns and everything, TL Yarn Crafts on YouTube. Her name is Tony. I really like her personality and her teaching style. And even watching her do it and then reading, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, wait, what? But then I had to write it down myself and made it click. So now we've got an extra loop on the right, because these form, the way I look at it, these form little V's or U's, and this guy over here doesn't have a match. So if we ended on the right, that was an even number row. With an I. Toni. That's her name, but her channel's TL Yarn Crafts. I think she's based out of Michigan. And she is an expert in Tunisian crochet. That is one of her TL. Actually, you know what? Let me find. I'll even post her a link to her page. She even has made a she has written a Tunisian crochet book. Yeah, not Tony. Not Tony as in the boy Tony, like the girl's name Tony. But yeah, she even has a Tunisian crochet, I think she calls it the Tunisian crochet handbook. And that's where I've gotten a lot of inspiration from her. I mean, she didn't write these patterns. These patterns have been around for a while. But if you want some really good tutorials besides my own, I mean, I do live. I don't know if she does any lives, but definitely check her out. So that was an even row, I think. And now we're going to do an odd number row. So the odd number row is you skip that first bar, you yarn under, and you go through the next two, or under the next two, yarn over and bring it through. Yarn under through the next two, yarn over and bring it through. Yarn under, go through the next two. I'm hoping I can, this is showing up really good. Yarn under through the next two. And then you're going to yarn under and go through the top of that edge stitch. And again, they form V, like U's or V's. So there's one set, two, and so on, and our extra ones on the left. That's how I remember it. Might have missed a stitch there somehow, but that's fine. But you'll notice, and in my example, if you look at the edge doesn't looks a little different because you can't smock all the way to the edge, and it's not really showing up with the gray as much. Yeah, it's not really showing up. You're going to yarn over and bring through one loop. This is the return pass. Yarn over through two, yarn over through two. Now, obviously this is a narrow sample. You could do all different types of things with this. It would make a really thick blanket. I don't know how well that would work because of how thick it is. I think she even has again, Tony has a tutorial on how to do this and to end up making a pillow. And I think that would look really nice with that textured and it being thicker. That's going to be a little more appropriate for a home decor item. Cool. Now we're going to do an even row. Even row is we're going to do simple Tunisian under the first bar, and then now we're transitioned to joining together, which is yarn under two, yarn over and bring it through. Probably not showing this the best way. I know I keep saying that. And I always got to remember how to do the edge. Yarn under and through the last one. And then the edge of the even ones, you just do a simple, regular Tunisian stitch. So another way you can think about it, if you're doing an even numbered row, when you go under that first bar, you're doing a simple stitch, and when you're going under the edge, at the end of your row, you're going just a simple stitch. You're not doing a yarn under and anything fancy, you're just doing the simple ones. So that's for even numbered rows. Same for the return pass. Oh, went through too many. It's essentially the same thing. It's just how you start and stop each row alternates. And that alternating pattern forms the lattice or the smocking look. We've done 6, 7 rows, I guess. You really tell when you move the fabric side to side, the light picks up on the stitches. Do another row. So this row, I would do. Thank you. I lost track. What would I do? I would do. Okay, that was an even row. Now we're doing an odd row. I always got to remember yarn under, skip the first bar for an odd, and under the next two, yarn over and bring it under, and bring it through. So we have 3 on the hook. Same thing. If you have a wider piece of fabric. Hey, fruit fly bear love. I'm demonstrating how to do Tunisian smock stitch. Tunisian crochet smock stitch. And then this was an odd. Okay. Go through each of these. And the last one, you're going to still yarn under and through the top of that chain. Go. Oh, this is just a sample. This is a tutorial on how to do the stitch. Thursdays, I call it Stitch Dictionary, where I choose a crochet stitch to demonstrate and then a Tunisian crochet stitch to demonstrate. So we're just picking one and one of each stitch, and I'm just showing you how to do them. This isn't a specific project, this is just a sample. So again, to do a return pass, yarn over, bring it through one, and then yarn over through the next two, and so on until you get to the end and only one on the hook. And welcome to my channel. Anybody that's new here, welcome. And if you're interested in any of my previous streams, they are uploaded onto YouTube after the stream is over. And that link is down below in the About section. I've got, I don't know how many videos in there. I've been doing this since the beginning of December. Yeah. It was an odd row. Now we're going to do an even row. So an even row, we're going to do a simple Tunisian crochet under the first bar. I guess. I mean, I don't know how to increase and decrease for like the wings. So we just did a simple Tunisian under the first bar, and now we're going to do the yarn under and the two together. All the way across. And since we did a simple Tunisian for the first bar, we're going to do it on the edge too, but we still have one bar here. So that bar's got to be a yarn under. And now we can do the simple, regular, ordinary Tunisian for the edge. Again, that alternates on the rows. Some of these are yarn unders and some are yarn overs. That was a simple. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but the edges here are more flat because there's none of the smocking being done on the edges. I got a piece of fuzz. We're to the return row again. Again, this is a small sample, so my rows are going pretty fast. I can see this if you use a stronger type thread or yarn, like a cotton yarn or a much finer yarn, but a stronger one. You could end up doing this to make it like a strap for something. It'd be a decorative strap. Just it being this narrow. For some reason, the width, I was thinking like a guitar strap. I mean, you wouldn't make it out of this type of yarn. But that's a possibility. Okay. So that was a even row. Now we're going to do an odd. yarn under and skip the first bar, and then do the next. Forgot to hold it. So when you yarn under, you got to hold that loop because it will come right off. Hold on. Oh. Let me check something. I think I missed the loops. Oh no, the loops. I must have missed a loop somewhere. Yeah, I missed a loop somewhere. Oops. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to rip out. We'll do the previous row over again. That's an even one, so we do simple, and then we do two together, and then two together, two together. I messed up, so with crochet, you can always rip back out and fix your mistake. Yarn under there. Let me double check. Yep. The edge, referring to my notes, yeah, the edge, you just do a regular. Okay, we got it. I ended up missing a stitch somewhere along the lines. Since this is this pattern, you see each and every stitch. It's kind of important because you have to alternate them. I'm missing it again. Oh, it's right there. Maybe. No, it's not. We'll figure it out when we get there. Two. Okay. Now we're going to do the odds. We're going to skip that first bar, yarn under, and do the next two together. Yarn under, the next two together, and so on. That's where I had this issue before. I must have did a stitch weird. We're going to fudge it. Oh, I figured it out. The stitch here that I couldn't find, and you probably can't see because it's not really coming up. And if I go any closer, it's going to get washed out. It was hiding. It's fine. Wait a minute. Yarn under. That. I think I'm doing this right. Got however many rows done. Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I added some extra rows. Okay, maybe. I knew what I did. Shouldn't have done where I thought I messed up. Because I didn't mess up. 2, 3. Even after doing a... Oh, I did mess up somewhere. Oh well. Yarn under. That's what happens when you do a complex pattern. Yeah, that did get a little messed up, but it's not that noticeable. I've heard that. And if there's a mistake in it, that's how you know it's homemade. Just doing a return pass. It's not too bad. What? Excuse me? Okay. 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 All right. So now, can't remember. That was an odd row. Now I know we're doing even. Can never remember. Get to the end of the row. When it started, get back. I can't remember what I did before. So this is an even. So an even, we do a single, a simple Tunisian, and then we do the two together. Yeah. It's a little TMI. I didn't need to know about that. Oh, I know how that feels. Having mistakes. Okay. And then you do the end, you do a simple. Yeah, if you look real close, you can see a little minor mistake, but it's minor. True. I mean, you could rip out the stitches, but it's not always easy to fix an error. God, no fairy. Oh, okay. Well, now you get your Crojo on. Exactly. Same thing with this crochet. You yourself, whoever's crocheting, only knows the mistakes. I mean, I pointed it out as I was doing it. So, I didn't expect anybody to be following along with this, since this is a very complex. It is. This is a little advanced. Well, I would say intermediate for Tunisian crochet. I just wanted to show how cool it looks and how it can be done. It takes a little mental gymnastics to get this done. That's okay. Yeah, I don't expect everybody to follow along as I'm doing this. So, what are you working on now, Clay Miko? You said you got your work done and now you're getting your Crojo on. I just like the texture of this and like moving it and looking and see how the stitches move and no yarn barf or Christmas barf. I think she's referring to this specific yarn that I don't really like, or it could be when you have a ball of yarn and you pull it out trying to start in the center and it just makes a mess. That's called yarn barf. Or maybe she's doing something else. Okay. Is there any other thing you want me to, any other technique that I could do tonight to clarify on something? Because I think, no, 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 now, enough with doing that in the bed. Um, ah. So the other night we did a lesson on granny squares. Is there anything else you want me to touch on that if somebody's not clear on, we can go back to something um, from a previous stream. We can always do that. I'm not getting out any gadgets and any of that stuff tonight, but something to review. And while you think about that, I'm going to show you a sneak peek. I think we're going to get into the sneak peeks. We're going to do a sneak peek of Saturday. Now, if you check and you look at my schedule, you can figure out what we're doing Saturday. But a sneak peek, Saturday's theme is going to be broken up into two parts. So the first part will be Saturday, the following will be the following Saturday. There's no way I can do it all in one because I'm trying to grasp the concept. So this here is sneak peek of what's coming up on Saturday. And you're like, Crafty Cub, that looks like a square. Well, it is a square, but it's a specific technique on how to do this. Grant, beginning of each round, do you chain three in the first space? trying to understand your question. Beginning of each round, do you chain 3 in the... You mean once you've joined, once you've already gone around, and to make the next round, do you do chain 3 and then the double crochets? Is that what you're asking? Okay, yeah, after you slip stitch, you could chain 3, you could chain 2. I usually chain 2. Some people will chain 3. There's different, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just a chain. But yeah, I think she means 3 double crochets is the first, 3 chains is the first double crochet. There's different ways of thinking. Some people chain 2 for a double crochet. Some people chain 3. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. I normally chain 2 for a double crochet, but in certain projects like this, when I first started the foundation row, the extra 3 counted as a single crochet. I mean, the extra 2 counted as a single crochet. So, whatever you want. Definitely not 4. Yeah. It's not going to make that much of a difference because it's only 1 chain in a small... and it's clustered with the other 2 double crochets. So it's not going to make a difference. So you could do 2 or 3. It's all up to you. But yeah, this here is what I'm going to show you how to do on Saturday. All this is, I'm just going to tell you the stitches involved, are chains. There's lots of chains. Double crochets and slip stitches. That's all this is. Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna do a double crochet, you're gonna at least do 2 chains, either 2 or 3 chains. So that is going to be, and this yarn here, it's a cotton yarn, so you're gonna see a lot of holes in it. It's not real fluffy. You can, what do you make with this? Well, this is just a sample. This is a sample. It's the technique of how to put this. And you can kind of see there's little blocks. There's little squares on how it's, hold on a second, how it's put together. Well, to do the technique, when you start, it's 6. And then in other times when you do it, there's 3 for chains. You don't chain all of this. You don't do one whole chain, like on one side. You do a small amount, and then you do something, and you do something, and then you do chains again. And it's built in increments. You don't do... Well, I can't... Okay, my next stream, if you check my schedule, my next stream will be Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And have a good night if you're headed to bed. And if you want, you can follow me. And then I think Twitch will notify you when I go live. I think. Yeah, it is getting late depending on where you are. Depending what time you have to be up. So yeah, with this, I can't tell you how many chains and how many multiples and plus, and because you don't build it that way. You are going to do 6, when you start, you will do 6 chains on this. and then work into those chains. And then from there, once you've worked on it, then you'll do more chains and then work into it and keep doing a certain thing. And yeah, so it's just not a matter of total amount of chains. But I think eventually we'll get to the more advanced of this. Well, first we have to get to this part. I gotta think of something else, because unless you wanted me to keep going on with the smocking, or I can revisit from earlier tonight the easy sedge stitch. Do some of the sedge stitch. You want me to start over on the sedge stitch? And oh, fancy little emotes and symbols. That's gonna be too dark. We're gonna do some beige. I know it's boring, but I need something that's gonna show up on camera, and I'm tired of the pink. I did 2 things of pink tonight. Okay. Just want to get enough of this. And this one I'm going to make wider. Okay, we'll redo the sedge stitch, since it's pretty easy and pretty fast. So, you get your slip knot on your hook, yada yada yada. Boring, boring, boring. You chain multiples of 3 plus 3 for the foundation chain. So again, if you want your finished piece to be 30 chains wide, just as an example, you would add extra 3, because you need those extra 3 as a turning chain for your work, if that makes sense. Kind of like if you're going to do single crochets. If you're going to have 30 single crochets and you're going to do a single crochet into all of those, you need an extra turning chain, an extra chain to turn for your way back. So we're going to do multiples of 3 plus an additional 3 chains. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. I don't know about that, but I have a baby blanket that somebody made me, and it's a big granny square, and it's all different colors. So here we've got our chain, multiples of 3, plus an additional 3 chains for the foundation. Now, we're going to skip the first 2 stitches, and I got to zoom in for this one for some reason. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, and those 2 stitches are going to act turning, and it's also going to act as our first single crochet. So in the 3rd chain from the hook, we're going to do a half double. And again, a half double is going to wrap, insert into the chain, yarn over and bring up, 3 on the hook, yarn over, and then through all 3. So that was done in the 3rd chain from the hook. And in that exact same chain, we're doing a double. Okay? So again, multiples of 3, 3 additional ones, and then in the 3rd chain, you do a half double and then a double. You're going to skip the next 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain, do a single, a half double, and a double, all in that chain. Everybody still on board with me? Okay. Early on, I can rip out. Let's start over. Okay. Slip stitch, multiple. We're going to chain a multiple of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm going to do 21 this time. Okay? So that was our multiple of 3. And then we add 3. Yes. Okay, I'm going to do 21, and I'm going to add 3, because that's my extra. Because those extra chains is going to be our turning chains. So, the 3rd chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3. The loop on the hook never counts as our first chain. The 3rd chain from the hook, do a half double. And again, to do a half double, wrap it around the hook, insert it into the chain, yarn over and bring through. You'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and bring it through all 3. That's a half double. So we got that? In that exact same chain that you stitched in, where you put that half double, you're going to do a double. So you're going to yarn over, insert it into that same chain, yarn over, 3 on the hook, yarn over through the first 2 loops, yarn over through the next 2 hoops. So that is a double. So to recap, our 3rd chain from the hook, we're put in a half double and then a double, both in that same chain. You're going to skip the next 2 chains. Now, when you do that, it might get a little tight, so kind of look for that chain. So we're going to skip that chain. And the next chain, you're going to skip 2 chains. And in the 3rd chain, we're going to do a single crochet. And after that single crochet, and it's still in that same chain, that exact same chain where you put that single crochet, so it'll be the 3rd one from that cluster we did. In that same chain, we'll do, and next to that single crochet, we will also do a half double and a double. Okay? Now you follow the pattern. You skip 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain, do a single, and in that same chain, do a half double, and also a double. You do the exact same thing you just did. You're forming these little mini fans. You will continue that until you have 3 chains left. So you're going to skip 2 chains, and in the next chain, so the 3rd chain from that cluster, do a single, a half double, and a double. You keep doing that until you get 3 chains left on your foundation chain. So again, skip 2 chains, the 3rd chain, do a single, a half double, and a double. So you're doing a little baby stitch, a middle mama stitch, and a big papa stitch, like the 3 bears. Baby, mama, and papa. They're all lined up in a row. So skip 2, and in the 3rd one, do a single, half double, and a double. Keep doing it. I'm not going to count. I only got a couple more to go. Yes, little happy fans. Skip 2, and in the 3rd one, do a single, a half double, double. So when you get to the end, you should have 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. You're going to skip the first 2 chains, and then the 3rd one, which is the last chain, you're going to put a lonely single crochet. Off camera. You form these mini little fans. And that's row 1. Row 2, first we're going to chain 1 and flip. Now if you pull your work, you see this large hole that's forming right there? In that large hole, we're going to work. So that chain, that one chain we did, that turning chain, think of it as a single crochet for this row. We've already done the bottom, the first row is done. Now we're on the next row. So think of that as a single crochet, and we're going to continue the pattern. So in that big hole, we've already done our single. We're going to do a half double, and in that same hole, we'll do a double. Now, after we've got that little cluster, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then the 3rd stitch, and it makes it easy. Let me take the hook out real quick. If you pull it a little, you see this hole here? It's a little bit larger than the tops of the stitches, and you can kind of see the fan goes down a little bit, ever so slightly. That hole is what we're looking for, where those 2 fans meet. So you skip the next 2 stitches, and in the 3rd one, you'll do another fan. You do a single, a half double, and a double. then you follow that to the end. So we'll do one more together. Skip the next 2 stitches, and in the 3rd stitch, which is that large hole, you do a single, half double, and a double. Again, skip 2 in the 3rd in that larger hole, do a single, a half double, and a double. You do that all the way to the end, and when you get to the end, we'll stop. So we do a single, a half double, double. The next one we do a single, half double, a double, and our last one here we do a single, half double, and a double. When you get to the edge here, you've got this one from the previous row, you got one there. The top of that turning chain, basically the 3rd one over. So here's a stitch, and then here, the top of that turning chain, you just put your hook in and do a single. That's the pattern. There's no extra rows. Each row is the same. There's no two row repeat. It's one row. It's a 1 row repeat. So again, you chain 1 and flip. That chain 1 counts as a single crochet, and in that same space, you'll do a half double, and then you'll do a double, and then you find the next big hole, which is the 3rd stitch over, single, half double, and double. No. Are you talking here on the edge here? Is that where we're at? Is that what you're asking? Okay. The only time you chain is the turning chains on the end of the row. It's the only time you chain. So we've chained 1 because we're turning. And in that hole, we'll do a half double and then a double. Okay? Now, the 3rd hole, the 3rd stitch, which is the larger holes, as you do it, they'll be larger than the other ones. You do a single, half double, and a double. Again, the easy way to remember is when you do that one chain and then you turn, so that turning chain, think of that as a single crochet, and when the pattern is single, half double, double, single, half double, double. So to make that little fan, that turning chain is a single, then it's followed by, next to it is a half double and then a double. All in that same, where that single, or that turning chain. Yeah. So you continue it. There's no other chains. You don't chain in between. You just keep it going. The only chains are the turning chains at the end of the row. And again, at any time you can always change colors. If you wanted to do a couple rows of one color and then a couple rows of another, or however you want to alternate it. It's an easy stitch, and it looks pretty cool. Again, let me bring the sample. This would be a really good stitch for a baby blanket because it works up quick and it's got just the right amount of texture, and it's not real loose. Like it's not like a granny square where you can see right through it. That would definitely make a good baby blanket. Someone have a baby. Don't look at me. And you really don't even have to count stitches because these large holes from where the fans kind of are joined basically tells you where to put it. So you don't really have to sit there and count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's right there. You just got to remember to do that first little fan right in the edge. Yeah, you could do that. Get the yarn when it's on sale, and then this stitch works up quick, and the baby blanket's not that large, and just have a bunch on hand. I just came across it in the book the other week, and I was like, that's kind of complex, but easy. Because I'm trying to come up with find stitches that aren't kind of too simple. I don't want to do a row of single and a row of double and a row of triple and a row. Yeah, I want something that's going to be unique and interesting, but I didn't want anything that's going to be super hard. Crochet roses. At one time, there weren't roses. I did make, and they're around here somewhere. Like, I don't even know what. I don't remember how I did it. I did it years ago. Give me a second, and I can find it. Over here in this little bag. What we got here? This is a little odds and ends of stuff that I've made. There's some squares. Oh, there's a flower. And there's a mini little flower. There's a purple flower, which I can easily show you how to make those at some point. Another purple flower. Another little tiny one. No, I am not. I'm not doing three-dimensional dolls and amigurumi type stuff. She sent me. This is what she sent me. Picture. It's a crocheted nurse. No. Sorry. Pretty square. Trying to see what else. I got another little pink flower. There's a bunch of other squares in here that little made these years ago. I don't know why I made them. I was just like practicing things, and but this is in the round, and it's kind of these are like a variation on a granny square, but not really. I mean, you're still going around. They're not squares, but I think that's it. And then these, I don't know, maybe. And then this is a little, it needs to be fluffed up. This was really complicated. And actually, no, it wasn't. This was like one long strand, and then I formed it and kind of made like a three-dimensional flower of some sort. I don't know how I feel about it, but and then and these little, this is on a little rough side. They've been sitting in a bag for a while, so they need to be rejuvenated. But there's that. I don't remember how I did these. And then this one really, these two are cotton, and I need to fluff them up somehow. This one was kind of cool. Now I got the leaves, and it's got the center. Not really a sunflower, but some type of flower. Something I was playing around with years and years ago. I don't remember how I did them all. Maybe I found a pattern somewhere. A black-eyed cousin. Yeah, yeah. It's our black-eyed cousin. That's a whole that's a family joke. No, no, no. They're not in Winona. Not that side. The other side. They're just over the line in Pennsylvania. Actually, Clay Maker, you've met that cousin. I'm going to be winding down here soon. I thought the smocking was going to take longer than it did. Not in my yarn. I hate that, but I'm just going to go with it. It's just a sample. Normally, I would stop and cut it out and then join properly, but I ain't worried about it. Yeah, definitely. Maybe after you're back from your vacation. That right there, again, that's like the fourth sample I have of this really cool looking sedge stitch. Yeah, I mean, it was also last minute and things happen, so it's fine. So I think I'm going to wind down. Oh, what, the tan? Yeah, I like it in the, this together. got the tan, I got the pink, which doesn't really show much up that well. It's the lighting. The white, you can kind of see it. And then the blue shows up a bit, but I think the brown might show up a little bit more. Even though it's a very color, at least you can see the stitches and it doesn't, the glare and the lighting doesn't affect it as much. Brown shoes. We're gonna make shoes out of it. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's fine, and it's not like it's was set in stone. It's like, oh, you had to be here and everything. Yeah, it's cool. What was I gonna say? Oh, next stream will be Saturday at 8, and our preview, and I gotta show it again. This is our sneak peek of this stitch. I don't know why I had more glare, because it's the same lighting, but this is our sneak peek of what's going to be happening on Saturday. This here, it's regular crochet. It takes a regular crochet hook. It doesn't take a Tunisian. Doesn't take a circular one. It just regular crochet hook. This is going to take a little while to wrap your head around on how the stitches are formed. And if you guys want to stitch along with me with this, that would be good. Even to do a little practice piece like this. Once you get the idea of this, then later on we'll really get into the advanced intricacies of how this could work, what else can be done with this. So with that said, check out my YouTube channel, which is below. Like every night, every time I stream, I upload them to YouTube, so they're always there. I think that's it. Everybody have a good evening, and happy crafting!